If you think inflation is bad now, wait until the world sends every unwanted dollar back to America at once. The year is 2025, and the single most consequential economic arrangement of the modern era has quietly reached its end. And while most people go about their lives unaware, the shockwave from this expiration is already setting the stage for a collapse in purchasing power, wages, and the basic standard of living Americans have taken for granted for half a century. For 5 decades, every barrel of oil traded anywhere on the planet was denominated in U.S. dollars. Nations didn't just want dollars, they needed them. That manufactured demand elevated the U.S. currency and propped up American power, even as the country outsourced its industry and buried itself in debt. But that scaffolding has now been pulled away, and almost no one is sounding the alarm. Your media won't say it. Politicians refuse to whisper it, because the moment people grasp the truth, they'll understand that the America they remember has already slipped into the rearview mirror. The Petrodollar pact effectively ends in 2025, and when that pillar falls, the dollar's global supremacy topples with it. The majority won't recognize this until the fallout hits their grocery bill and savings account. But the informed have already repositioned. They've moved into hard assets, commodities, farmland, and anything not tethered to a currency losing global faith. They know what history teaches. Money only holds value as long as people collectively believe in it. And right now, that belief is fracturing. To understand why this moment matters, we have to rewind to 1971. On August 15th of that year, President Richard Nixon appeared on national television to announce that the U.S. was temporarily suspending the dollar's convertibility into gold. In plain terms, the dollar was no longer tied to anything tangible. It became a promise, and promises without backing tend to break. Foreign governments had little incentive to hold a currency supported by nothing. Global trade had no reason to be conducted in dollars anymore. The U.S., recognizing the looming crisis, needed a new mechanism to force global demand. That mechanism emerged in 1974 when Henry Kissinger brokered a pivotal arrangement with Saudi Arabia. The deal was elegant and ruthless. Saudi Arabia would price every drop of its oil exclusively in U.S. dollars. No alternative currencies, no gold, only dollars. In exchange, the U.S. would shield the Saudi kingdom with weapons, military support, and security guarantees against regional adversaries. Through OPE, the same structure spread across nearly all major oil exporters. Oil was sold for dollars. Dollars bought oil, locking the world into a cycle that artificially elevated American currency. This allowed the United States to run deficits, accumulate unfathomable debt, and print money without immediate consequences. While other countries were forced to export in order to earn dollars, America could simply issue them. The petrodollar didn't just strengthen the U.S. economy. It defined America's power. Control the currency, control the trade. Control the trade, control the world. But this arrangement had a timestamp, and that timestamp is now up. In 2023, Saudi Arabia quietly revealed that it would not renew the petrodollar agreement. No press conferences, no headlines. But in the backrooms of global finance, the tremor was felt immediately. A system held together by confidence began to weaken. Because once trust erodes in a reserve currency, decline doesn't happen slowly, it snowballs. Saudi Arabia had spent years preparing for this moment. They strengthened ties with China, India, and Russia. They entered BRICS, the coalition built specifically to weaken reliance on the dollar. They began settling trades in yuan, rupees, and even exploring multi-currency baskets and gold-linked transactions. And they aren't the only ones diversifying away from the dollar. In 2000, 73% of global foreign exchange reserves were held in U.S. dollars. By 2020, that share dropped to 59%. By 2024, it slid below 55%. In the typically slow-moving world of reserve management, this is a plunge. Central banks across the world are cutting dollar holdings at the fastest pace since World War II. China has shed hundreds of billions in U.S. treasuries. Russia abandoned its dollar reserves nearly a decade ago. India, Brazil, Argentina. All are shifting trade to their own currencies. The world is waking up to what America hoped no one would notice. The dollar is backed by nothing except global belief, and that belief is fading. And here's where the abstract becomes personal. The dollar's value has nothing to do with how hard Americans work. It hinges on global demand. Demand that was artificially created through the petrodollar. Now that this demand is evaporating, the trillions of dollars floating overseas will eventually rush back to the U.S. When too much currency chases too few goods, prices skyrocket. But this won't look like the inflation of recent years. This will be rapid erosion, the kind that wipes out savings in months. For decades, America exported inflation and imported the world's production. Now the process reverses. As foreign nations sell off U.S. assets and trade shifts away from the dollar, imports become brutally expensive. Energy, electronics, medicine, food, everything. And here's the nightmare: there's no policy fix. The Federal Reserve can raise rates and break the economy, or print money and accelerate the collapse. Either path leads to the same destination. The petrodollar was the silent engine of American dominance. Its expiration marks the beginning of something the public isn't ready for. The question isn't whether the system breaks, it's how you prepare before it does.